I wasn't planning on doing another Quickie video. I don't tend to like these kinds of videos, but I've been working on some other stuff and I'm hopefully about to get a job part-time, so bleh. But in that time, I've been trying to catch up on my backlog and I've been making fucking progress, thank God. And in that backlog, there was one specific artist I was thinking I might make a full video on, and that was Bensen Boone. Mostly because he's been getting a mixture of hate and love from a variety of people, and so, I checked him out, and, well, the album, Fireworks and Rollerblades, or Firecrackers, I don't care. Here's a few things you should know about Bensen Boone. Ignore the train, I'm not closing that. One, the first time I heard of him was, of course, the same way you did, through the Beautiful Things song for the bad singing. Two, because YouTube hates me, I got recommended an Elliot Saying video. His video specifically on modern American culture and its fascist culture and shit. And in it, he claims Bensen Boone was like a poser, and it was because he was like Mormon and didn't distance himself from like Mormon conservatism. And it's like, okay, I don't think that's what's happening, but I'm glad you're trying. And lastly, on Spectrum Pulse's note, when it came to Bensen Boone's rise in kind of intense mediocrity. So when I checked out this album, I had all of that in mind. Also, the fan base he has. After listening to at least half the album last night, I didn't finish it, I'm sorry, it was dull. I'm happy to report the ultimate middle-of-the-road consensus that the album is mediocre, but it has effort. Here's the issue. When I did my Greta Van Fleet video, my point was mostly a note on nostalgia. The other problem was that Starcatcher as an album sucked ass, so I wasn't really that impressed with what Greta Van Fleet were doing, but here's the difference between them. Greta Van Fleet take the 70s, 80s, and 60s aesthetic of classic rock a la Led Zeppelin to about the darkness of the 2000s and merges them together to a kind of showpiece of what that style of progressive rock was. And though I don't like it, I understand why people do. It's a very classic aesthetic of rock, and it's why they're so popular, especially amongst old heads. But Boone is not doing that. Boone is taking the David Bowie pop style of Let's Dance and appropriating it today with modern music styles, but it's not derivative is what I'm saying. Like, this album does things where it's like, I can tell he's trying to do something a little different. This isn't just a bunch of corporate bullshit being plastered onto him. This is a mixture of that and his own creative impulses. The music is written about as generically as any kind of pop album would be written, and there's the truth that he is trying. Let's also talk about the singing because, yeah, it's not great, but it's not horrible. Like, when I got to the Beautiful Things track and it was playing, I was like, yeah, the singing's not great, but it's not grating, it's just not good. Like, it's the same kind of singing style that Harry Styles did on Harry's House, so I can see why people are getting past it. And especially because there are some songs on the album that are passable for pop songs. There's Cry, and then there's the other song on there that I need to look up because I forgot about it. Be Someone. But mostly the album is filled with a lot of acoustic and piano ballad cuts about how he loves you, girl, and that's where the fan base comes on. Paired with the excessive mediocrity of the album, you can tell very easily why this thing is popular. As I said with Greta Van Fleet, it's not the best. Okay, the format goes as follows. Person does something unique, and it inspires someone to do it not as interesting, but that one that is less interesting, but based on the known obscure thing, is what gets popular. Postal Service to Owl City, Big Freedia to Beyonce, Sophie to Chappell Roan is what I'm saying, or Charlie XCX. That's not me saying, by the way, that second artist is inferior to first artist. It depends, but typically the thing to get popular is not as unique or experimental as the first thing. That's just kind of the rule. If an artist does something genuinely unique or different, it's not going to get popular until it gets ripped off. And that's what's happening with Boone. Greta Van Fleet had a niche audience of mostly rock heads, and Boone is using that in a pop direction, so he's naturally going to get more popular. What I'm trying to say here is that he's not that interesting. The album is mediocre, but you can tell he tried. The writing isn't anything special, but it's not worthless, and the songs are not boring, but they're not good enough to be great. I could imagine that Boone should go in a hard rock direction and be something more like The Struts or The Darkness, but he clearly doesn't want to do that. And the criticism that he's just posing off of like queer rock culture and appropriating it for straight people is like, yeah, but that's just how culture is. And whether he decides to distance himself from the zeitgeist we're stuck in doesn't matter because he's not popular because of it. Sure, he's technically popular because he's a very straight version of like the gay queer rock star trope, but that was always appropriated because that came from the 70s proto-punk era of like trans punks and queer punks like, like Debris, that also inspired Queen and David Bowie. That inspired Boy George, as well as the other one, the one who made You Spin Me Right Round, the Awooga. So now that you understand that, what I'm trying to say here is that the hyper-hatred and hyper-love for Bensen Boone is synthetic. It's artificial because, like with the previous artists who took that position, Ed Sheeran, we're just looking at the backlash to something being made extremely popular that people just aren't interested in. And it doesn't help either that in our modern pop era, pop music right now sucks ass for 2025. A lot of it has kind of regressed away from the progress we made last year. Like Chappell Roan made a country hit that's not doing anything. Sabrina Carpenter just made deluxe album. Drake is back, so I guess fuck whatever we did last year. Like, he's doing perfectly fine and will probably overtake Kendrick. Like, I know people aren't thinking it's going to fucking happen because Gen Z sucks and don't like personality. So we're getting these personality-less responses to what happened last year. So instead of fucking Chappell Roan or Harry Styles, we're getting this loser who doesn't make anything interesting but has label push on him and can probably fit in commercials better. That's what's happening. That's why Spelling's new album isn't doing anything despite it being her best. That's why Clipping's new album is not being met with the same praise because even though, again, it's their best and most interesting, it's too weird now. We're not allowed to have weird things anymore. That's why Bensen Boone is popular, alright? And I think the people obsessing over him need to just let go of the fact that ultimately he's not that interesting, but he's passable. And like Sabrina Carpenter, he's probably just going to stick around through the year and will probably be very popular among the crowd of people who don't like personality artists. That's the depressing world we live in.